What is going on, guys? It is Dylan here. Today we'll be going over a ticker symbol analysis on the ticker symbol SOFI, SoFi Technologies. Before we get to the video, just want to let you know we'll be using technical analysis, using a variety of different techniques on multiple different time frame intervals to get a very in-depth, full analysis of where the stock will go within the next few days and or weeks. We won't be skepticizing long-term price targets, news, stuff like this. We'll be just straight getting into the price prediction. With that being said, let's start the video, guys. So, right away, guys, it did not take a rocket scientist to tell you that we're clearly in a descending channel. If you can't see it, that's okay. But that's what we're trading in as of now. You clearly see the parameters. Sometimes we cover stocks and they're in a very simple situation. There's a couple different data points we got to watch. It keeps it simple. But this is not the case, guys. So far, we have a lot going on from different time frame intervals and a lot of patterns, psychology, a lot of interesting signs. So with that being said, let's not get too ahead of ourselves on the daily. We're going to go start over from the weeklies and we get a very broad-eye perspective of what's going on within the stock. And then we'll move closer and closer and closer with different time frame intervals until eventually we have a full scope analysis. Alrighty, guys. On the weekly time frame, you clearly do see that SoFi has been in a couple of year range, really just hanging out in this general spot ever since about the midpoint to 2022, just kind of hanging out, not really doing a whole lot before getting some catalysts, some nice signs, and a lot of momentum. Since then, we actually have had the retraction down to the means, right? Stock has been sitting in this super long consolidation, not doing anything. The energy was building up, right? We did have this descending trend line, really starting that breakout, very, very clean, this descending triangle. And since then, guys, there was this nice breakout and, you're hanging around for years and years and years. You spike immediately up, from, what are these lows? $8 all the way to 18. It makes sense. Stock from then, consolidated, hung out a little bit before it dropped it. Okay, so we are looking at a weekly cup and handle pattern, starting from these wicks over here, pushing all the way down. You could argue to the top over here, but I think the better representation is starting here. You clearly see a cup. If we just make it really, really thin, we zoom out a little bit, you clearly see this is a cup, and then with the handle-like formation. Cup and handle formation, very simple. The psychology, guys, is that, we do have a point where we start off the pattern getting really, really ugly really quick. Stock gets very, very neutral for an extended time, trying to pick a trend, before shifting the trend into a nice bullish fashion, and then pulling out sideways for potentially, picking your next trend, moving up higher. And from this point, we'd see a very explosive move, potentially back to that $18 level or higher. So that is on the weekly time frame, guys, but we are seeing some interesting action as far as the weekly analysis. As this handle going down, it is quite linear. Usually we see these handles kind of formulate a little bit more tight, a little bit higher, but this one is kind of sloping downwards. And we do see at the neckline a little bit of bearish action. So in the last video, we mentioned when we had this doji candle pressed against this major spot that this is forming indecision at the end of this breakout. And that's very, very key. So as far as the daily candle we're seeing now, we are seeing a little bit of a push off this descending resistance, which isn't a good sign for the buyers on the weekly time frame. But I am saying this knowing that this current weekly candle, guys, is not yet closed. We have until Friday. So if stock does reverse, guys, if anything, that could even add to the bull's case, as it appeared that we're going to drop, right? It appeared we're going lower. Maybe we're tracking back down to the 50% retracement zone in this descending handle, right? Failing the breakout right before stuffing back up. So there still is potential for this handle to be broken. But this is a very key spot, guys. Just looking on the weekly, we clearly have a huge formation, which has been forming for years. So, this is not to be taken lightly. SoFi's at a very key weekly spot. But with that being said, we are looking at the weekly time frame. So we can't jump to conclusions already that we are going to drip down, to these 1150, trace back down. It's a little bit too early, but we are seeing some early signs of that. Yes, but it is too early. So with that being said, we're going to move over to the daily. So on the daily time frame, right away, guys, SoFi, if you've been following SoFi over the, since its IPO, since 2020, or even the last few years, that SoFi is a very thin stock. You know, it just, it can be a little bit choppy. It can be a little bit choppy. And that's what we continue to see over this duration, off the last, really since March, last couple of months in this region, as, when stock moves up, it looks very, very nice. And then it gets flushed really, really hard before spiking up, coming down, right? Of course, stocks move up, down. But the fashion in which, SoFi moves is definitely very volatile, right? We pushed all the way up from 11 bucks all the way up 14.50 before flush. Boom, very hard movement. So we're seeing that, kind of action play out in SoFi. So we're seeing the energy build as within the last, 10 candles or so, despite these spikes here, we're seeing a little bit of a consolidation. And that's not the worst sign as we are moving up, setting higher lows. So we're definitely in bullish territory, guys. Anywhere above this blue line as we're starting to step up. But to play devil's advocate, we once again see a conflicting sign, right? You see this clear ascending support on the daily time frame, which we mentioned in the last video. The base with that was about 1330. We did flush that level, coming back down, almost testing this 1250 level before having a little bit of a bounce. So on the daily time frame, we don't have enough confirmation to say that stock will come up, right, and regain this ascending support. If this does happen, guys, that looks very nice, as a lot of bears, a lot of short sellers will get in on these spikes, to play this descending channel moving down, right? Stock moving up into this general descending channel. And then we broke this. So this is definitely set up for a lot of bears to look for a good risk reward setup. So if we do push back up and squeeze back into the zone, we will see that kind of false breakdown situation, and then that would flip more bullish. So that's the best case scenario for the bulls. We quickly, soon as possible, regain that, really that 1395, but even if we just get up a little bit higher to that 1370 and reclaim this ascending support, we'll be looking a lot better as far as the short-term momentum goes. So yes, we do have one green candle pressing up since the beginning of this breakdown as ascending support. But guys, it is a little bit too early to say. And this is why it's in quite a bit of an awkward spot, as on the daily time frame, we do have another pattern, right? Another one. You have the inverted head and shoulder. As you see over here is the start of the pattern, right? We based at this level for 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks. Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4 days, right in this general area before flushing, coming back up, forming that shoulder-like formation. Sellers step in control right at this neckline, push it down, come all the way up, form the head, followed by another shoulder. So, there's some major, major resistance, even let alone the patterns. And we have this descending channel. But, around this rough level, right up here at that 1450, guys, that's some very crucial resistance as, if that breaks, we're breaking these top wicks from these exciting movements, which we ran into once, twice. We ran over here for a couple weeks. But we're also breaking this descending channel. So if you're a buyer in SoFi, you really want to see stock hold up here. As if we don't, get above there and get back above the ascending support, retest these highs in that 1450 area within the next few weeks, you definitely are in threat of continuing this downward movement. And centering back to the weekly for just 20 seconds, guys, you don't want to see that happen. As then within that means we'd really be moving lower in this channel. And if we start to move back down lower in this channel, I think it's pretty improbable that we do come back up to break this cup in half. So that's why we're covering SoFi, guys. It's a weird stock right now. It's in a weird spot. There's a lot of different conflicting elements, but we do have some data points to watch. If we do break the low of these two candles at that 1280 level, then at that point, you would expect it to go lower to that 1250. Alrighty, guys, so let's go move over to the hourly so we get a little bit more of a short-term analysis to really get a good gauge for what may happen in the next few days. Another resistance marker. SoFi has continued to set these spots, and it's been very, very stubborn. This ascending support in the daily, which we just mentioned, it held on to it for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, around 14 days out of the last 17. That's significant, guys. You don't see these touch points in a lot of other stocks. And that's why we've seen that move down, right? Since we broke 1345-ish, we sunk down. But to play devil's advocate, guys, we do see another descending resistance. stock ran into it for once, 2, 3, 4 hours before sinking beneath it. Another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 hours. You get the gist, guys. So we have this descending resistance. If we do break this, as far as the short-term momentum, we would be breaking this lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high trend, setting a higher high above this 1330 range. So as far as a very short-term perspective, 1330 would be a nice level breach. But as of now, guys, we are in a bullish movement within the last few weeks. As when we really zoom out, we're still setting higher lows, threatening it with this movement. But, typically we make these videos longer, guys. But to be honest, as of now, man, we're in a very key spot. And I'd be lying to you, anyone would be lying to you, any professional trader would be lying to you to say that as of right now, there's enough data points to, say with confidence which way this will go. We're seeing a lot of signs each way. And the major marker points we'll be watching, guys, is this channel. This is the biggest trend we have, is this centers back to the weekly cup and handle. So if we see that breakout, if stock, rallies back up, gets really, really strong, breaks over that 1450, really starts to confirm this, guys, it could have, a good year to run, arguably, as this pattern is formed for 3-4 years. It would make total sense to see, a year breakout, or at least a couple months. So to put it, to not put it lightly, guys, this is the most key spot SoFi stock has been in the last few years, if you ask me, or at least the last year. So keep a close eye on it, guys. If we confirm the bottom of this candle, we zoom in a little bit more. If we confirm the bottom of this candle at that 1280 level, it is very probable we continue to move lower and set the trend for, to move downward in this channel, which is not a good sign for the buyers, which I imagine a lot of you guys are. But we've got to keep it unbiased, guys. We're looking at a stock chart. It doesn't care about our emotions or feelings or investment opportunities. None of that, guys. So looking at the stock price, once again, very, complex image, guys. We're working with a lot of data points, but we'll run over it really, really quickly. So best case scenario, bulls see that reclaim of that 1350 area. We push on higher to these 1395, 1450 resistance levels and get past it. As once we get past these guys, we're breaking out of this inverted head and shoulders, right? We're moving up higher. We regain this ascending support. Things are looking good, but to play the devil's advocate, if we do break this level, move on lower, it would be very expected, to retract in the 50% retracement within this descending channel, which would be at that 1070 spot, which would take a little bit of time to get to, but we could definitely see some bleeding to come in SoFi stock if we don't get this confirmation above, guys. So keep an eye. We are marching up, but we are seeing a lot of negative signs as well. So with that being said, guys, I hope you appreciated the analysis. These can be very difficult to put into words, as I've been trading for a little over 6 years now. And, these things, it's hard to put into words. There's so many signs, and yeah, that's why I like to make these videos. It's a mental challenge. So I hope you guys followed along with me. I know we have a variety of different people watching the channel from different technical analysis levels. But with that being said, guys, keep an eye on these major market points. I hope you have a good day. Take care. Trade smart. Let's make some money. And peace.